Everybody, last panel of the day. Really excited to have all our guests here today. We're talking about organic cultivation and branding. I'm here with my really good friend, Brian Malin from Vital Garden Supply. Brian, thanks for coming, and take it away.
Thanks for having me, Mario. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm Brian Malin, founder of Vital Garden Supply, co-founder of Pacific Reserve, and I also have a consulting and operating company called Optimal Ag Solutions. Hello, hello, hello. Chickadee check. Okay. I've spent a good bit of my life studying and working on organic soil and biology. I've studied soil biology with Elaine Ingham, who's the beneficial biology and compost tea guru. And I have been cultivating cannabis consistently since 1988. That might be a little bit before some of you people. I was just thinking, Joe, yeah, I got you by 1 year. I'm also a firm believer that for any sort of agricultural issue, there is an organic solution. And whenever you hear people telling you it can't be done organically, don't let them talk you into thinking that. These panelists here today have been chosen because of their dedication to the craft of cannabis, and we got people from all over the country, and I wanted to have like a nice variety of people to be able to help share this experience with. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, and along with their introduction, I'm gonna ask my first question. So please introduce yourself and tell us what state you're from and how long have you been cultivating cannabis and what made you take the organic path. Jamie, you go first.
My name's Jamie Sykin. I am from Southern Oregon. I basically live on the state border. I am 25 years cultivation, career criminal, DEA raid survivor, long-time legalization activist, and just die-hard organics on my deathbed screaming that shit. Like, everything I do processing, single source with full sun cultivation. Everything is organic. My premise is basically inorganic is for the grower and organic is for the consumer. And so the people putting food on your plate, you're working for them. And if you're in cannabis cultivation, you are a service to the community. So there's just things to keep in mind, and another reason for organics. And I'll pass it down. Sure? Yeah,
What's up, everybody? Oh, shit.
Keep it kind of close.
So my name is Dan. I'm the founder of Rebel Grown. I got really passionate about cannabis when I was 13, 14 years old. I grew up in Boston, and I grew weed in Vermont. When I was a teenager, my goal was to basically be an organic weed farmer and figure out how to stay, out of getting in trouble and incarcerated. So I grew weed underground on the East Coast for 10 years before moving to California. And then I randomly ended up in a very magical part of the Emerald Triangle in southern Humboldt County in a subdivision that was one of the most legendary kind of outlaw territories in the Emerald Triangle. And then spent a bunch of time there getting to kind of live all my dreams in cannabis of genetics work and organic cultivation, and eventually brought what I was doing back to the East Coast. So I now base myself in Vermont, where I have a state licensed farm there. But I actually got into organics from discovering the book Primo Plants from a High Times magazine in probably 1994, 1995. And through the experiences that I had of searching for what the best weed is and the best feelings from weed and sharing that with others, is just really undeniably that naturally cultivated and organic things, especially using diverse sources of ingredients, just seemed like an obvious concept. And so I've dedicated a lot of my time and energy to learning and teaching other people sustainable and organic natural cannabis, just because that's what the best weed is.
I'll go last. By the way, Dan has a booth back in the corner, and he does have some of his amazing genetics, and the seeds are available today.
My name's Troy Moore. I'm the owner of Ideal Cannabis, Oregon's finest, and also the director of cultivation for Goldflower, Florida. You know, started growing in 1994, which led to me to a lot of different things, but started growing organically probably 10 years ago, 2014, 15, thanks to guys like Jamie, one of my partners, Tyson, who really got me into organics, and I knew that was the path forward. Set myself apart, be different, and then obviously it just fucking tastes better. But yeah.
My name is Joseph Snow. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SnowTill. I actually started growing about 12 years ago, as you can tell. So not quite as much experience as Brian over here, but
Remind them what state you're from, Joe.
which country I'm from?
State.
State? Oh, I'm in California. That's where I grow now. But I actually started growing 12 years ago back in Israel. That didn't end well for me and most of my friends doing it back there at that time. But now I'm in California, thankfully, where it's a little better and a little, you know, we have a license and I could do it with my head above water. And I grow organically because of a YouTube video I originally saw with Mendo Dope. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. But they actually just won the Emerald Cup this past year. But they put out a video about a decade ago about no-till farming. And once I saw that, I kind of went down the rabbit hole and I found the forums of the originator, this guy named Ian from Mountain Organics. And I started just basically asking him for advice. He kind of taught me how to do the no-till thing. That's kind of the name, SnowTill, no-till. And after a little while, you know, me and him became very close friends, and we actually work together now, which is like an honor for me because he's kind of my like guru in the industry. And yeah, and like everyone has already said, I do believe organic cultivation produces the best product for the consumer, and that's why I do it.
Well, that's awesome. It seems like this whole panel is very concerned about the consumer, which might be a little bit different from some of those booths that you guys have visited out there. So keep in mind when you buy cannabis, it's good to buy cannabis from people who care about you. This leads me to my second question. Does your company and/or does the state that you cultivate in allow for any organic certifications? And then what is your opinion on third-party certification?
In the state of Oregon, you can't be certified organic, but you can be, I think Kind certified is the good one. There's another one, but it's pretty much bullshit. I mean, the reality, I'm sorry, but you got to be transparent. If you're transparent, that's all that matters. No one cares. If you're showing everything, there's nothing to hide. If you're actually being your authentic self, you have nothing to hide. And the next guy, your competitor, has something to hide. So being authentic and just being transparent, you can show how serious you are about organics. Tell people what you're using. There's no secret tech. Just tell people what you're doing. And I think that's the most important in that. And again, the cool thing about organics is to be confident with the transparency because you are on the right side of it. You do care more. You could easily care less, but you chose to care more. And as far as like using inorganics, not just the health factor, you know, cannabis is one of the biggest phytoremediators on the planet, where it'll pull up like toxins.
Accumulator.
Salt fertilizers are literally heavy metals. When you're growing inorganically, the plant is taking up all of these heavy metals, and then you're smoking that. So like, there's a level of care. The level of waste after you grow with these chems, where does it go? It always goes down the drain. Where I live, there's salmon that would go to. So yeah, I would say that like with organics, I wouldn't worry about certification. I'd worry about transparency and just letting people see what you're really doing, because that is all your marketing. The only real marketing is what's actually going on.
Know your farmer.
So I used to have the exact same opinions, and I completely agree with him about transparency. I mean, if you know that you're growing something special and putting special energy through organics into it, you should let people know about it so they can understand your efforts. And what I used to think about the third-party certifications is the exact same thing as you, but then I realized, who am I competing with? And what if I'm competing with people who care less and put less effort into it, and their herb isn't organic and it's not as good as mine? And so I think there is value in those partnerships. The Sun and Earth people, I participate with them. I was there when they came up with the idea in California, and I had the same comments as you. Plus, what Sun and Earth is, it's a third-party certified thing. It's mostly marketing and PR. But what I like about it is that it's mostly funded by Dr. Bronner's soap, and they contribute to over 100 nonprofits, mostly prison and criminal justice reform, really important issues, and people that I could, be down with. And so originally I decided not to be in the program because I wanted it to go to multi-generational cannabis farmers in my community in California who had been there longer than me, had grown up there, were more deserving of me, to try to educate the masses in LA about the efforts that go into growing in living soils and these things. And then when I got my license on the East Coast in Vermont, I realized that the market there might actually care more about things like that in New York and Vermont, where they care about the food. CSAs and organic farming back in the day kind of originated in the Northeast. And so I asked them if I could be their first Sun and Earth certified farm on the East Coast, and we went through a pretty rigorous 9-month process. I was impressed. They came out, did independent soil analysis. Like, we have to submit some pretty detailed records, sprays. Like, I was impressed with the way they did it. At the end of the day, it's really just marketing and PR, but it's an ability to have a platform to tell more of my story. And for people, dispensaries that I have to work with and other farmers, if it gives me an edge in surviving, it's something that I think is a really cool opportunity. In California, you have certifications like what you have. You can actually get certified organic cannabis in California, which it's like, what kind of foods do you eat and how do you shop and spend your money? And if you care about what you put in your body, that should be an important thing for California. I can't afford to do that in my farm in California. We can't make any money there. But I do like the idea of these programs. The people who run them, that's the thing that needs to be questioned, is like, what are they doing with their time? How much effort's going into it? Where's the money go? But there's value in them, but I also agree with every single thing you said.
You're grown in California. Did you mention OCal?
Dan's California and Vermont.
Yeah,
both.
so we do have. Yeah. So we have OCal certification in California. If you need to know, I know a guy if you're looking for a good deal on OCal certification, but we have that there. I'm a big fan of these certifications, especially if they're done by a trusted third party, because it just allows people to know what is or isn't actually organic. I think that where I agree with you 100% on the fact that the transparency and trusting the farmer, ultimately though, you are just trusting that farmer, and there's also a lot of farmers who are going to say like, oh, it's organic or whatever, and I've seen a lot of times where it isn't. So having these third parties come in and actually regulate it and make sure that it's up to a certain standard is great. But then again, I hope it doesn't turn into what like the lab situation in California has become, or in a lot of other states where people are paying for like quote unquote fake certifications just to say I'm organic, whatever. So I think it has its benefits, its deficits, but for now I'm a fan until otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. I hear what Jamie has to say too. But from a perspective, like, we're all in the cannabis industry. We know who's using what. We know who we could trust and who we can't. But there is a lot of people out there who really care about what they put into their body. People who may not necessarily be the headiest dude in town and know like the ins and the outs of the cannabis game. So I think it's important for us as cultivators and companies to have a product that has a certification that they could look for, and whether they find your product the first time or not, once they do and then they have a good experience, then you probably have a customer for long term. So I think connecting those two dots is something that, to be considered for sure.
I guess I just feel like organic food is only 72% organic to be approved. And so if you group yourself with all these other guys that you're the same certification and you actually care and like really care, like your heart's in it, this guy over here wants the certification for branding. You're the same now. But if you're just the connection from you to your consumers, which everybody's on social media, you can talk directly to your people. You're not in a group with anybody. You're creating your own lane. These people didn't want us in their systems before? Like, I think that like cannabis people, you're on your own. Like, if you can make it on your own, you're good. The group branding is not a good look in my opinion, because then you become one of many that are all like people assume same practices. But I mean, I get it. There's no checks and balances. Like, people are doing crazy shit out there, but I still would say that, like, you'd be better standing on your own and just being an individual with your company and not being grouped personally. But I'm probably more untrusting than most.
Jamie's about as big a rebel as I've ever met, so
Can I say one
I
quick
respect
rebuttal?
him for that especially.
I really respect, I'm going to be quick, but I really respect the things you're saying are exactly how I feel. And then I started to look at how I was going to survive and support my family. But the other thing is, I think everyone on this stage cares about educating people who don't know about organics. So what
Hey,
I
that's
found
my next
joining
question.
forces,
Wait.
joining forces with that organization gives me more ability to educate people. And so if I can combine, and we both have the same messages, we want people who don't know about organics to know about it, and then we can do all types of things like give back to our community and all these things. Yeah, it's branding, it's PR, it makes us look good, but we're doing it because we care about it. It brings us joy to help others, to educate others about these important things. So, but I also completely agree with everything you said as well.
Well, that's. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
was
go
going to
yet,
say
Troy.
the same
Sorry.
thing. Like, transparency is everything. You know, I grow in both states, Oregon and Florida, very different places to grow. People in Florida need a little bit more education. You know, so I think this third-party certification makes a lot of sense there. In Oregon, maybe not so much. There's a lot of organic growers. If you know Dirty Arm, you know that he's been preaching from the tops forever. So you can just trust that word. But it's a different beast in a different state where they don't have as much education, and it helps get the word out there. It makes more people kind of focus in on it, want to learn more about it, not just me saying, hey, I'm the organic grower here, you know, but actually proving it.
Well, this was a perfect segue into my next question. How, and Jamie, you could this will still apply to you because there isn't necessarily a certification associated. But how do you and your company educate consumers, promote organics as a better alternative to conventional? And this doesn't necessarily require a certification. It's just more of a marketing approach or educational background.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody's ever like, I want to meet the soybean farmer, but they want to get to know who their weed plug is. And if you're, you know, it's going to suck to say, but if you're on social media, that's where the people are at. So if you want to reach an audience and you want to reach a crowd, whether you like it or not, that's where it is. And that's how people can connect with you and get to know you and understand what you really care about, what it's really about. There's no marketing, there's no hot chicks. It's literally just, this is what I do. There's nothing to hide. Here's the feeding. Here's the harvest. Here's never sprayed. Like, here's the test results. You know, I think that's really what it comes down to personally. But
You know what I just thought of? They should be able to offer more farm tours.
Yeah,
So
I was just
people
going to
could
say that.
actually-
Something we do a lot in Florida.
Yeah.
Just offering, you know, getting people into the grow, showing them why we're a little bit different. You know, opening up your doors to people that you're not afraid to show people what the fuck you're doing. You know, you want to educate them. People are into health. They care. You know, they just don't quite understand all the time what the difference is between this cannabis and that cannabis. This one looks real pretty, but this one might taste a little bit better.
No, I like that.
I'm sorry, what was that last question?
The question was, let me flip back, sorry. How do
bad.
you or your company educate consumers and promote organics as a better alternative to conventional?
Sure. So I've had an opportunity to be involved in a bunch of different aspects of cannabis education, most of it beginner stuff. I like to write, and so early on I started reaching out to High Times when I was a teenager, asking if I could write for them, and they never got back to me. And eventually, just through
Where's Capetta?
meeting people in California, I was able to write some articles for Skunk and Grow magazine. And some of the times it's other people's stories that I would interview and tell, but the idea is I want to reach as many people as I can reach, but with whatever bandwidth. Social media is a really great tool, and for people who are also passionate about weed, that's where you're going to find educated, knowledgeable, passionate people who would care about this stuff. But for the masses, they're not on social media. A lot of people are 9-to-5s and have a regular life and family and jobs, and they're not really weed people, but they spend their money at stores that might have our weed. And so my idea is to just do whatever I can to get the message out. So writing for magazines is helpful, between telling other people's stories, but also telling mine, and the intention of blogs. And really, one of the goals that I have is to grow and sell weed successfully enough to sustain my business, but to get to the point where I have more of a budget to have some help with marketing and PR, because it's what I like to do is storytelling, but I don't have the megaphone to get the message out. So social media is great, but I've done a lot of cannabis journalism. I took a better part of a year in Massachusetts in 2014 and got to teach at this cannabis vocational training school, the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis, that was founded by the late Mickey Martin. I don't know if anybody here knows Mickey Martin.
Yeah,
but he was
hell yeah. Mickey's
Bay
the
Area
man.
legend, and I was
R.I.P.
really involved in some of the books that came out of Oaksterdam University and founded Parents for Pot. It was a very basic level education, but it was cool. Then in California, in Southern Humboldt, we had the Bud Sisters, Pearl Moon, and you probably know Pearl from back in the day. They had the 707 Cannabis College, and at events I would get to talk, and that was great because I got to connect with people who cared about the same things that I did. But yeah, just any opportunity that I guess I have to tell part of the story like this. And by the way, you know, I appreciate being invited to this by you to speak, but also Mario and Sherbinski putting it together. I've never come to this event because this is the big corporate one that I, you know, wouldn't normally gravitate towards, but to be, you know, included with awesome people and old school seed companies like Sensi Seeds and stuff is a cool experience. So I'm grateful and appreciate the opportunity.
I feel like I just educate people through the channels that I educated myself. So, you know, if someone's interested, I'll usually recommend firstly the One Straw Revolution by Masanobu Fukuoka. I think that's really a cornerstone of a lot of the, at least my sect of organic, which is the no-till living soil part of it. So I usually recommend the One Straw Revolution. You know, some of the basics like Teaming with Microbes, Jeff Lowenfels, obviously you can do Elaine Ingham, you know.
Elaine and Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. So I just send people to the relevant sources, and I kind of let them draw their own conclusions once they see the facts and, you know, the research done behind it. And then the last, kind of the way I feel like I try and educate people is through the flower itself, by actually producing a very high quality, top tier indoor living soil product. I think it gives people a lot of context, because obviously a lot of organic cultivators are doing it not indoors. They're doing it usually in a greenhouse or an outdoor setting. And obviously there's considered tiers within quality. So it makes it hard then to compare the organic indoor to the maybe hydroponic indoor. So having us being in that same room with the other indoor cultivators, but doing it with an organic style, hopefully we get to show people and exemplify the kind of the stronger terpene profiles that are present, the more dense resin content on the plant, and just overall, I think a stronger and better experience while consuming the cannabis.
And the diversity between the strains.
Mouth
Yeah,
coating
way more
flavor, too.
diversity between
Yeah,
the
exactly. You
strains.
see the expressions. It's not all PGR'd out. It's in fact, you're seeing a lot of the foxtailing and all the kind of weird, quirky ways that each strain likes to express itself. So yeah, totally. Yeah.
Awesome. It's really important that we help spread the knowledge and help spread the word, so this gets embraced on a little larger level. So here's a question. This is a big one because everybody's talking about budget these days, and our economy isn't great, but at the end of the day, do you think organic cannabis products should bring a higher price tag? And if so, how do we make sure that there's an added value?
I personally, a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I don't think organic should cost any more than chem-grown weed, personally. For one, it's
Salt should
cheaper to
just be
produce.
cheaper.
It's cheaper. Like, you don't have to produce it in a lab and make some kind of isolate with Kool-Aid colored chemicals to pour into your shit. You just, like, get some aged cow manure or, like, guanos. It's really way cheaper. And the reality of cannabis in 2024 is that we're like the cockroaches that are still left here after all the shit. And if you haven't figured out your overhead needs to be next to nothing, you won't be here the next year. Because literally that's the direction, is your overhead needs to be as low as possible so that you can pass that price on and be competitive. Organics shouldn't cost more. They don't really take more money to do. You just have to care enough to do it and know how to do it. And yeah, I don't think Is it more valuable? Yes, because you're going to have more market share. I wouldn't worry about the extra $1 or $2 on the per jar. I would worry about the big picture of moving volume by having people feel connected to the fact that you're doing salt-free with no extra charge and that you actually care more. But there's no ego involved. You're the same price as the salt-pushing Chads. No fucking different.
So I agree with some. I disagree with a little with other parts of it. Where I would say I agree with you is that it is definitely cheaper to produce. 100%. However, at the same time, even though it's cheaper to produce, I think it requires more expertise to produce it, which means more of our time to figure out how to do it in that way. Obviously, anyone could start doing organics, but for anyone who's been through the rigmarole of figuring out how to do it organically, you're going to end up with certain issues that you didn't have prior, that once you learn how to tackle them in that organic manner, now you have kind of this superior product. And so you go through this longer period of learning. It's more of like you have to, where with hydroponics, well, not hydroponics, but with bottled chemical nutrients, generally chemical nutrients specifically, you're basically given put this and this and add it to your plants, and there it goes. With organics, there's just a whole other slew of things like, am I going to mulch? Am I going to cover crop? What cover crops makes a little more thrift pressure, which makes a little bit less? You know, there's all little kind of things that you need to figure out to decide how to do it, and that's what people are really paying for. And what I think people ultimately in the end of the day, what people should be doing is comparing this bud to that bud, and if this bud is a superior product to that one, clearly the superior one should fetch at least a higher price than whatever that is fetching. So for us, our experience, you know, when we came, we're actually a new company, the California Rec Market. We went live at $27 an eighth wholesale to dispensaries, which is quite high relatively to the market. And a lot of people were naysayers saying, no, you can't do it. No one's going to want to buy that. And then sure enough, we started getting into shops. People started seeing the quality. It started flying off the shelves. And then before you know it, we're in like 80 plus stores in less than 6 months of legal operations. So
Congratulations, that's huge.
thank you. And so I definitely think that organics can fetch the top dollar, but it shouldn't be whether it's organic, hydroponic, whatever. For me, it's really what that end product is. But I do, maybe I'm biased, but from my own experience and from what I've seen, I do believe organics done properly produces that top tier product, and therefore definitely deserves that top tier price point.
I hear 3 bags of salt and you put this percentage of this, the percentage of that, and it's easy to clean out. Organics has a lot of different dynamics, and it makes it a little bit trickier. You know, there's things that you can't let slide, where there's a little bit more room for mistakes on the salt game.
So my opinion is that all weed should be valued based on its quality. And then the problem is who's in charge of deciding what is a better quality, how do you score and rate that? Because, you know, I obviously have strong feelings about sun-grown and about, you know, organic cannabis, but certain people, if they have a really great system they've developed and high quality ingredients and materials, non-organic cannabis can be really good. I don't think it's as good, but in the same way, you can have organic growers that have less skill, less experience, less technique, and aren't dialed, who are growing an inferior product organic. So ultimately, it should be the quality of how well it was grown. That's what I would like to see stuff valued at. Another difference really between the organic and inorganic, it's about ions and molecules. And most non-organic growers will tell you that plants don't know the difference between ions and molecules. You know, experience, I think, of everyone here smoking weed most of their lives, we can tell the difference between organic versus non-organic ions and molecules in that exchange. My personal style of growing is about, with organics, as much diversity, because maybe you have an organic input of one thing, but what if you had that same exact ion, that same molecule and input, but sourced from 3 different things, one from the land, one from the sea, whatever. That's my style. So, but organics done well should be more valuable. I completely agree with you, but ultimately what it comes down is to how well was the product grown. And then also, unfortunately, and I know you won't like this, and I agree, but it's how is it presented? because like we're not just selling somebody a bag of weed, and I don't mean fancy packaging. I mean the information that comes with it. You know?
I guess I just look at it like, you know, I got a rec license almost 10 years ago in Oregon. There's like a fraction of the people that are left is so few people. If there's a guy on the shelf who wants a premium because it's organic, he's going to be next to my product, which is going to be organic with no premium. And at the end of the day, if you can do it cheaper and it's good, you win. That's literally what it's about. And it's not like it's a mission, not a competition. But at the same time, like if you want to like be relevant 10 years from now in this, like I do think you have to give the people what they want, and they don't want to pay more when it doesn't financially cost more to produce it. And I just think like the more you can offer the people, the more longevity you have. Personally, that's what I think. But.
Super good point.
What these guys all said was really great, honestly. Yeah, in the end, quality wins, right? If most of us here believe that good organic weed is the top tier, then obviously it's going to fetch a top tier price. That's just the story. Your weed speaks for itself. Is it worth that, or isn't it? Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding, right?
Exactly. Show me your jar. All right. Let's go.
Okay, so let's since we had a little bit of debate of organic versus synthetic and price, my question to you guys is, from the grower's standpoint, or actually if a consumer comes to you and says, why is organic weed better than conventional weed? Actually, this question actually came from my son. How do you address the non-believers?
I have a pretty good answer to that because of my journey, which was back when I started cultivating over a decade ago in a country that didn't have any of the access to the organic materials. Like I couldn't get alfalfa meal, I couldn't get kelp meal, which by the way, don't use kelp meal, we'll talk about that later. But I learned that over the years. But alfalfa meal, crab meal, basically all the neem meal, compost. You couldn't really get any of that back there. So all of our cultivating had to come from bottles. So what did I start with? I started with advanced nutrients, right? And there's a reason I grow the way I do now. And back then, I thought I grew some pretty stellar weed, but I would laugh at what I grew then, now, growing the way I do. And I am just a firm believer that, and it's not just me, I've turned other cultivators onto it by giving them a little bit of advice and being like, no, just try it with just a bunch of worm castings and this. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, my plant was green the whole time. It wasn't like sickly, struggling along. And I know that probably makes me unpopular here because there's a lot of nutrient companies out on the floor. But at the same time, I don't see
any of them here though. There's where they should be.
Well, I don't know if whatever. But I just got here by the way, so I don't actually know if that's true or not. I just assume. But I would definitely say that growing organically, just come look at my jar, guys. Like that's it. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
Just come look at the
Show
jar.
and tell right after the talk here,
so
guys.
You just
You're not
gotta,
impressed.
You just got to show them. So, for instance, you know, I really like all those ingredients too. They're expensive. So, like in Vermont next year, we're gonna plant 10 acres of alfalfa, which we'll see how it goes. And then there's certain cover crops to go with that. But check it out. This is not from my farm. It's my genetics, but it's not from my farm. This is not organic, right? This is from California, grown, you know, in Northern California. It's awesome weed, stuff I've won awards with, right? This is from Vermont, and it's completely organic, grown in the Northeast. And all it takes
smells way better.
Is, yeah, I mean, if this is crazy, I brought this to brag to my friends in California. What I want you to do is open it and then take a little, like a node.
No,
Yeah, you're a weed dude.
I'll take just
I would really like to give you guys some seeds also. But smash that. So 30 miles from the Canadian border and it's northeast. So be honest.
Oh, that's gassy. That's some gassy goodness.
Dank as hell.
So
I approve.
So that's the double OG sour that won the Emerald Cup this year.
Grow this?
Yeah, it's a clone. It's a clone.
Let me grow it.
And then check it out.
Oh.
This is Northern California, not organic. Northern California, not organic. My genetics that have won more awards than that. It's nice. You can chemi.
Same strain.
Different
Okay,
strain.
right?
Different strain, but also
Very nice.
Very nice, but you see the difference.
This is this one rock my nose off.
So I'm gonna bring that jar up to Humboldt, and I feel bad, but I don't think any of my neighbors or friends in California have seen weed this good from the East Coast. Sungrow,
Love it. Love it.
in the Northeast.
That's gorgeous.
Remember the question?
Nope.
How do you address the naysayers?
Yeah, dude, just what these guys did. You just show them your product. It speaks for itself, right? I mean, that's why I started growing organically, because my grower friends that were growing organically pulled out their jars and it slaps you in the face. And I'm not saying that salt grown is necessarily
Not necessarily.
bad all the time. I know plenty of guys that grow great salt herb, but good organics will stomp them every time, all the way through, smoking it all the way to the end.
Awesome. Well, I did have a couple more questions, but I'm supposed to wrap up here at 5. Thank you so much for participating. Thanks to Mario and Voice of the Plan for including me as a moderator today. If people want to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram at Organic Brian. I have some business cards with me if you want to come to chat. And then I was going to have all the guys let you know where you can get a hold of them. If any of you are in any of the states that they're in or passing through, keep an eye out for their brands. Shout out your names and your social medias and any other ways that you want people to be able to contact you. But most of all, thanks so much for everybody coming, and this little focus on organics and like in general, this cultural, this whole little section of MJBiz is pretty freaking amazing. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Brian.
If you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Instagram. It's Dirty Arm Farm 710. I'm super shadow banned, so you'd have to go all the way to that 710 part. But yeah, I would love to hear from anybody. I always like to, no issue answering questions too on Instagram, grow questions, whatever. I'm usually there, so if you need to get a hold of me there, we're in Oregon and all dispensaries all over the state. And we're also on LeafLink if you're an Oregonian.
Scoop up a jar of that Dirty Arm Farm rosin. You won't be disappointed, and it's super affordable.
If you're trying to get a hold of us, sadly our Instagram was assassinated about 2 weeks ago.
Same.
Yeah, so I used to have a lot of followers. Either way, so if you're trying to get a hold of us, honestly, best way would be through the website, snowtill.com. And there's a place to kind of write us an email. And if you just tell me, you're from here or whatever, just let me know, what you're trying to get a hold about. But I'm happy to answer anything or any questions you might have. Happy to get in touch. And yeah, thank you guys for listening to us talk about organics.
Yeah, you can go to my website, rebelgrown.com. You can leave an email through there, or you could just email info@rebelgrown.com. And I have a Instagram that's RBLGRWN, so it's kind of hard to find without the vowels. And also, I just want to say I really enjoyed everybody. I never met any of you guys and was, really impressed with everybody's knowledge and really liked what everybody said. So it was cool.
Yeah, and you can find my product in Oregon's Finest if you're in Oregon. You can find Jamie's product in Oregon's Finest. We pride ourselves on carrying like the best product, 90% organically grown on the shelf. And then if you're in Florida, we're Goldflower, Florida, Ideal Cannabis. You can find us coast to coast. And again, yes, this is awesome to be here. I think this is the kind of stuff that's gonna, infect the salt growers, and they're gonna want to make some changes. And I support that 100%.
Awesome. What a great group of people. Good diversity from all over the country. Hope you all appreciated the effort put into this and everybody's love for the craft. Thank you.